Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, so we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila chapter 10, which is entitled The Branches of the Chaitanya Tree. So we'll read verses 68, 69, 70, and then there's a purport in purport to verse 70. So what I'll do is I will read the verses 68 and 69, then we'll chant 70 together. Okay. So, okay, so text number 68. Do you normally do both the Bengali and the English, or just the English up until the verse we chant? What's the convention?
Convention is the chant until the verse.
Yeah, but the verses before the purport, do you chant the Bengali and the English, or just the English? Okay. Okay, so I'll just chant the Bengali for the 68 and the 69. Prabhu Yanra Nitya Laya Toda Mocha Fala Yanra Futa Loha Patre Prabhu Pila Jala. Translation: Every day Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu jokingly snatched fruits, flowers and pulp from Sridhar and drank from his broken iron pot. Text number 69. Prabhura Ati Priya Dasa Bhagavan Pandita Yanra Dehe Krishna Purve Haila Adishtita. Translation: The 30th branch was Bhagavan Pandit. He was an extremely dear servant of the Lord, but even previously he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, who always kept the Lord within his heart. Okay, so we'll chant 70 together. Jagadisha Pandita Ara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Jagadisha Pandita Ara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Moya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Moya.
Jagadisha Pandita Ara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Jagadisha Pandita Ara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Maya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Maya.
Jagadisha Pandita Ara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Jagadisha Pandita Ara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Maya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Maya.
Jagadisha Panditara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Jagadisha Pandita Ara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Maya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Maya.
Jagadish Panditara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Jagadisha Pandita Ara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Maya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Maya.
Jagadisha Pandita Hiranya Mahashaya.
Jagadisha Pandita Ara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Jare Kripa Kola Balle Prabhudaya Maya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Maya.
Jagadisha Pandita Hiranya Mahashaya.
Jagadisha
Pandita Ara Hiranya Mahashaya.
Yare Kripa Kale Baya Prabhudaya Maya.
Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhudaya Maya.
Vaishnavis.
Jagadish Pandita Hiranya Mahashaya
Jagadita Hiranya Mahashaya.
Hare Kripa Koila Balya Prabhu Dayamaya.
Anyone else?
Jagadita
Jagadita Panditara Hiranya Mahashaya. Yare Kripa Kalya Balye Prabhudayama. Okay, Jagadisha Pandita. Jagadisha Pandit. Ara and Hiranya. Hiranya. Mahashaya. Great personality. Yare. Unto whom? Kripa. Mercy. Kaila. Showed. Balye. In childhood. Prabhu. The Lord. Daya Maya. Merciful. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The 31st branch was Jagadisha Pandit, and the 32nd was Hiranya Mahashaya, unto whom Lord Chaitanya in his childhood showed his causeless mercy. Purport. Jagadisha Pandit was formerly a great dancer in Krishna Lila, and was known as Chandrahasa. Regarding Hiranya Pandit, it is said that once when Lord Nityananda, decorated with valuable jewels, was staying at his home, all night long a great thief attempted to plunder these jewels but was unsuccessful. Later he came to Nityananda Prabhu and surrendered unto him. Okay. Om Jnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuvum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so it's wonderful to be with all the devotees at Sri Sri Radha Lanshvara and also so many wonderful friends as well. And this entire section of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is titled The Branches of the Chaitanya Tree. So as we go through these verses, and you'll have been hearing these verses, so many different associates of the Lord are being spoken of. There's so much to this section. On the surface, we can say that there are so many names which are being mentioned, but this is also glorification. This is it's just like the family tree, right? Or we say, Gotra, that someone has their particular lineage. Sometimes when Prabhupada's disciples, if they're going to the Jagannath temple in Puri, they ask their Gotra, so what is your lineage? And they'll say Achyuta Gotra. So this is our line. Evam parampara praptam imam rajasayo vidu. That we want a sense of belonging. Everyone is looking for that. Everyone is looking to be part of something greater. They're looking for that in the material world, but that is also, that has its original aspect. And that original aspect is being spoken about here, that we belong to this line. And actually, when you belong to something, when you are part of something greater, it gives a tremendous degree of empowerment. It gives a tremendous degree of nourishment to the heart because one knows that one is supported. The original form of life is spiritual community. That is the purport here. The original form of life is not to be individualistic. Right? It is understood even in the modern world that even on a human level, people have needs. The reason why this selfishness is such an extreme form of being unnatural, because the need of the living entity, even on a healthy human level, what to speak of on a spiritual level, it is part of the need of every single individual to feel a sense of belonging, to feel a sense of connection. So sometimes it is spoken of that there is a need for authenticity and attachment. Okay? These two things together. Authenticity means that one is able to show up as themselves. And of course, we know the deep purport to that. What is the real self? Jivaras Rupoi Krishnera Nityadas. One has to show up as themselves. To the extent that one does not show up as themselves, to that extent one always feels there's something not quite right. This is the point. For example, we know in our tradition this Sanskrit term swajatiya, right? Like-minded. That means we are in the association of those who are also like-minded. Like-minded means what? Interested in Krishna, aware that we are servants of Krishna. There was a devotee who used to serve in the reception. This is many years ago. And then what happened was she was moving away from London. I think she was leaving London. So what happened was before she moved, there was a class that was being given at the manor, one Prabhupada disciple. So after the class, they were leaving, after the class, that Prabhupada disciple was leaving, and her and some other devotees, we were all following that Prabhupada disciple just to see them off. And this devotee asked that Prabhupada disciple for some advice. She said, I'm going to be leaving London. I used to serve here. Actually, she lived here. And he gave her some very important advice. He said, you must stay in the association of devotees. If you do not stay in the association of devotees, you will not be able to continue practicing Krishna consciousness. We sometimes underestimate what comes by association. And association has so many subtle dimensions. In fact, our teachings, they're all subtle. They're all subtle. Right? You come in at one level, you get the external form of something. As we become purified, you have the subtle dimension of the same thing. Just like the four relative principles. They all have their subtle counterparts. Right? We know the illicit sex, the subtle counterpart is a desire for name, fame, distinction, adoration, profit, and gain. Subtle counterpart. And if one does not give up the subtle, one will again fall back into the gross form. You understand how it works? So we let go of the gross, we purify the subtle, so we can stand on the spiritual platform. It is a journey of purification. So this point about association, it has its subtle form because we can be physically around the devotees, but not receptive to what they have to give us. You see the difference, right? So that's the subtle. Subtle association is actually who we open our hearts to, who we are receptive to. That is the subtle essence of association. So throughout all of these verses, we have an opportunity to associate if our hearts are open to that. This Krishna consciousness is always an affair of the heart. Right? In fact, our entire tradition is one of rasa, ras tattva. Right? It is the science of relationship at the stage of practice, and it is the science of relationship at the stage of perfection also. Always this relationship is paramount, and relationship means where the heart is. where the heart is investing itself. It's very beautiful in this first verse that we read, verse number 68. Every day Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu jokingly snatched fruits, flowers and pulp from Sridhar. This is Kolaveda Sridhar. He was mentioned in the previous verses. And drank from his broken iron pot. That's very symbolic. Broken iron pot. In the material world, we're so much interested in the form. Have you noticed that? Like the form of something. Often things are packaged a certain way. And we have that in ISKCON as well sometimes, right? You have sometimes the posters, very, very amazing. The videos, everything is packaged a certain way. And there's a place for it. There's a place for it because if it's done properly, it should come from a place of compassion. Because that is what everyone is used to. Because that is the propaganda that everyone is receiving, we should make sure that we promote things just as well, if not better, so we can draw them to the real thing. Right? So that's the form. But, and this is really important, form means nothing without substance. Right? This is very interesting. So the pot that Kolaveda Sri, the Lord Chaitanya is drinking from is a broken iron pot. But the Lord is not worried about that. In fact, there's no issue. He doesn't have an issue with that. Why? Because the substance is there. He knows I'm dealing with my devotee. I'm dealing with that person, and that person loves me, and he's offering the best that he can. You see? Again, this theme of giving the heart, doing the best that one actually can. There's a very wonderful consideration, let's say, that Krishna does not see what we give as much as he sees what one is holding back. You understand that? You know, someone comes to the temple, and they're very wealthy, right? You know, sometimes when the person's wealthy, the devotees give them extra special treatment, right? You notice that, the VIP treatment. You know, the devotee is not necessarily very friendly to everyone else, but I saw someone roll up in a limousine, suddenly the friendliness comes through. So, that's all of the story. So, the person comes in and the person's very wealthy. And they give some big donation, numerically, right? Big figures, 5 figures, 6 figures. Everyone's in awe. Wow, that's amazing, they gave so much. Someone else comes to the same temple. What they give is actually, in numerical value, it is actually much less. So then the consideration is, well, isn't the first person the person who's actually superior? Not necessarily. The first person is given a big number. But the question is, how much are they holding back? Right? So it's not what they're giving, it's the fraction of it, the percentage of what they can give that is being offered. That is what Krishna sees. So in many cases, you may have someone who externally gives less, but internally actually is giving a lot more. So our point, and that is why, again, gross and then subtle. On the gross level, kanishta. Prabhupada in Nectar of Instruction, he says that the kanishta is the prakrita bhakta, right? Prakrita, Prabhupada translates as materialistic devotee. So for such an individual, it's all about the form of something. And one cannot see beyond the form. Right? Because that is just where the level of consciousness is attuned to. It is a stage that all devotees go through. So it is artificial to expect them to see more, but it is also artificial to consider that that is actually the correct understanding. No, it's a stage. Kanishta, external, materialistic, prakrita bhakta. Right? The highest stage is actually this understanding. It's not so much what one is giving, it is how much one is holding back. So at different stages in our spiritual life, at different points, we have different capacity. And that capacity is now, it has an even further subtlety. And that further subtlety is that someone is giving so much. Wonderful. But they're giving what they want to give to Krishna. And what they're giving to Krishna is what they want to give to Krishna based upon their own attachments. Again, there's a place for it. What does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? Whatever you do, etc., do that as an offering unto me. That is one stage. But Prabhupada says the last instruction is the best. So what is Krishna's last instruction? Sarvadharman Parityaja, Mamekam Sharanamvraja, Aham Twam Sarva Papebhyo, Moksha Yeshyami Masucha. He says, you abandon all varieties of religion and surrender fully to me. He said, I will protect you from everything. I will protect you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. The highest level, therefore, is not just to give what we want to give to Krishna. There's a stage for that. There's a stage of that. But even higher, even sweeter, is actually to please Krishna by finding out, what do you want, my dear Lord? What would actually please you? And to offer that with love. And that journey is a journey of purification, but it is also a journey of intelligence. In this last verse number 70, it is explained that Lord Chaitanya showed his causeless mercy. This creeper is an extremely powerful and an extremely esoteric principle in our spiritual lives. Where is this mercy coming from? And how does one even know that they've received mercy? One way to know that one has received mercy is that they surrender. Actually. In Krishna consciousness, the words that we use have an approximation to the modern language. But it's an approximation. It's not exactly the same. For example, this term about intelligence. In the modern world, people look at your intelligence, they'll look at your IQ. But that's not the same as intelligence from the Shastric point of view. I was listening to a class by Prabhupada yesterday, and Prabhupada was talking about intelligence, and he said that it can come from experience, right? That's one type of intelligence. He actually said it can come from association with the spiritual master, or let's say devotees. It can come from Shastra. The intelligence that is referred to in our tradition is of a different type. It's of a different caliber. It is not talking about who's got the PhD from Cambridge, right? It's not talking about who has a higher IQ materially. The intelligence which is being spoken of in Shastra is like this. It is the ability to understand the essence of something. The essence of something is the natural and ultimate conclusion of something. Okay, so to explain what is meant by this, you can consider someone is an astrophysicist, they've got a PhD in biology and physics, etc. Now, and they've got it from the top universities in the world, multiple PhDs, etc. Now, they will understand so many things about the analysis and the building blocks of the material aspects of the creation. They will understand so many things about how the atoms and different physical dynamics work. But they won't understand the purpose behind it all. You see the point? So they understand the detail, but they don't understand the principle. They understand the external form of something, but they don't understand the substance of it. And because they only understand the external form, but they don't understand the substance or the purpose, they remain unhappy. You see? This is the key point. Behind everything people do, if you ask them why you're doing it, you trace it back, they're looking to be happy. They're looking to be fulfilled. So therefore, if after all of your knowledge, all of your studies, all of your research, you're miserable, what was the point? You see how it works? That's the way it works. If after all of these studies in the world, so many experiences in the world, so many experiences, you're still miserable, what was the point? I remember, I think I heard this story again recently. There was a teacher, and she was speaking to the students, the class, and she said, I want you to draw a picture of what you want to be when you grow up. Right? And then different young people draw different things, a fireman, a doctor, all these different things. And one of the young people, he drew a smiley face, And so when the teacher saw that, she said, you didn't understand the question. And he said, no, miss, you don't understand life. That's what he said. Miss, you don't understand life. Of all these things, if they don't give you actual, deep, lasting happiness, what was the point? Right? So what we have an opportunity to do in our Krishna consciousness is to get to the point. This is really interesting, that because we are part and parcel of Krishna, when he's happy, you're completely satisfied. Isn't that interesting? Now that's such a paradigm shift, because normally, the normal idea of religion is that you have to do what God says, otherwise it's going to mess you up, man. It'll mess you up real bad. Right? This idea that he's some kind of mafia crime boss who's just in the sky, who just wants everyone to surrender to him. That's not the same as our tradition. Lord Chaitanya, in this verse, he's jokingly interacting with his devotees. It is an affair of the heart. So no matter what we're doing, if it does not actually come to this, what is that verse? This devotional service has to be unmotivated. Look at that word, unmotivated. It has to be done for someone else's pleasure. Unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. It's very, very beautiful, very esoteric. You could do a comparison between mundane religion and Krishna consciousness, and the conclusion would be that there's no comparison. That would be the conclusion. Ahoy tukya pratiyata, unmotivated, uninterrupted, for every single person to be completely satisfied. What does that mean? The purport is, it is the nature of the soul to be selfless. That's how we show up when we're being ourselves. Selfless but not stupid. Sometimes when as devotees we hear that, we think, okay, I'll just do whatever, I'll just follow blindly. But that is also condemned. The way our teachings work is like a tapestry. You get one piece of the jigsaw in one place, right? So do the devotional service, unmotivated, uninterrupted, selfless service. Definitely true. Those statements are there in the Shastra. You'll get another piece of the jigsaw somewhere else. Tadvidi pratena priprasnena sevaya upadekshanti tegyanam gyaninas tatvadashinaha. Approach a bona fide spiritual master. Inquire. Get a proper understanding. That means you surrender and you're selfless, but you don't do it blindly. Right? It is not meant to be done blindly. Right? One is meant, and in the purport to that verse, 434, Prabhupada says, absurd inquiries and blind following, he says, both things are to be condemned. So again, one statement after the other, if you pull it all together, you get a very, very clear picture of how things are meant to be done in Krishna consciousness. Again, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, a tapestry. You put all the pieces together, it makes complete sense. In this, let's go back to the section. So in this purport, we hear about Lord Nityananda staying at the house of a devotee. And he's decorated with valuable jewels. All night long, a great thief attempted to plunder these jewels, but he was unsuccessful. That great thief symbolizes our behavior in this material world. It is just like the decision that was made between Duryodhana and Arjuna. Right? Arjuna, he had the choice. He could decide, do I want Krishna's army or do I want Krishna? Who did he choose? He chose Krishna. What did Duryodhana want? He wanted the army. Who won? Whoever's on Krishna's side, they win. That's the point. It's substance over form. Something may look big and actually, see, this is it. When it's so much an emphasis on substance, things look big, but they feel small. And therefore, there's always this emptiness, there's this lacking. We're doing all these things, but we feel empty inside. In fact, we're doing all these things because we feel empty inside. But when there's substance, when there's actually pretty, when there's actually love, then you feel the reciprocation with Krishna because actually he's pleased with what the person's doing. And because Krishna is satisfied, then every single living entity is also satisfied. This is actually the way that we're meant to approach spiritual life. Service means to please. To please means to know, because I need to understand. If I want to please someone, I need to understand what they like. So it's a journey for each and every one of us in our spiritual life. But it is a great, great journey. It's a great journey to try to understand the essence. And the essence, as is stated in this purport, this idea of coming to surrender to Krishna. I was thinking about different countries in the world. If you look around the world, the UK, for example, still has more of a protective culture. It's dying, let's be very clear. It's dying fast, but it still has a more protective culture. So, for example, if you're unhealthy, it doesn't matter whether you're a millionaire or whether you're a poor person on the street, you can still go and avail yourself of some kind of medical help. We know that there are countries in the world, you have to pay for that medical help. So if you're dying on the street and you're bleeding to death, good luck. Right? You're alone. No one's going to come to you. No one's going to help you. No one's going to pay for you. You're on your own. That mentality breeds a certain kind of culture in the mind. You see? When people don't feel that they have any shelter, when you have a society where people do not feel that they are protected, what it does is it kills all types of any sense of community and deep relationship. Because what it does is it creates a mentality that everyone for themselves. I'm not going to help you because it's not me, because I just have to look after myself. It creates a survivalist mentality. You see? And that is why people don't understand. But this Krishna consciousness movement is so incredibly powerful for correcting the issues in the modern world. Because the issues in the modern world actually begin with the values. You see the point? If you can correct the values that people have in their hearts, the beliefs that people have, you can correct everything else, because everything is downstream of the values. Everything is downstream of what you believe about yourself and about life. Why was Prabhupada able to come to the West by himself? So many people told Prabhupada, you will die on the journey. Swamiji, this is crazy, don't do it. Look how old you are. You're coming on this ship by yourself. Right? What are you going to do when you get to America? Who's going to look after you at this particular age? Right? You've got books. You've got a little bit of currency. Swamiji, don't do it. This does not make sense. How is he able to do it? He's able to do it because he's completely secure. How is he able to be completely secure? He's able to be completely secure because he knows that there is someone who is going to protect me under all times, places, and circumstances. Not just someone who's going to say they're going to protect me. Our parents can say we're going to protect you, right? And they have all the good intentions in the world, but they're not God, okay? So therefore, they have what's called limited jurisdiction. It can be a nice desire, but it's not a question of having the desire. One has to also have the qualification. So in a society where people know no one's going to look out for me, everyone, you will see, in that society, people are more insecure and they have more of a survivalist mentality. In a society where people feel that there's someone else there, there's actual community, people are actually looking out for me. And of course, in the highest level, that Krishna himself is there to protect. In that society, it transforms the consciousness. People show up in a different way. So we've gone, as a human civilization, it's gone really far down. First of all, it was God-centered. Theomorphic, God-conscious, right? A theocentric society. When it went down, then it was not good because the ideal is this, Daivi Varnashram, God-centered, Krishna-conscious society. When it goes down, then at least it's human, right? So at least there's human values. But now, we're not even living in a human-centered society. The society that we live in now, in this world, is a profit-centered society. So if you've got money, then you've got some shelter, or protection, or some facility. If you don't have money, you have nothing. So the society degrades more and more and more. Therefore, you see, whenever society degrades, the further it goes away from the needs of the soul, the more problems that come as a result. Right? That's actually how it goes. The further the society goes away from the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the more issues that it creates. And what happens in that society is when the leaders of that society are still like children, then that childish mentality means that no one wants to accept the ultimate conclusions of everything. And it happens every single day. Right now, so many leaders in the world, they don't want to accept that actually this material experiment has failed. This materialistic society is exactly the root cause of all these mental health issues. It is exactly the root cause of so many dysfunctional relationships. No one wants to accept that. No. And why don't we want to accept it? Because I'm attached. You see? So as long as I'm attached, I'm a cheat. As long as I'm attached, the natural conclusion of something, we will be in denial about it. Because I don't want to accept the logical conclusion of everything that I see and everything that I understand. Right? It is absurd to spend your whole life just looking after the body when you know your body's going to break down. It's absurd. I was with my father recently. My father said something. It was myself and, it was actually myself and my brothers. So my father said to me, he's an old body. My father said to me, he said, old age is rubbish. That's what he said to me. He's very straightforward. He's actually opinionated, actually, but we won't talk about that. My father said to me, he said, old age is rubbish. And when he said that to me, it really struck me. It's like, yeah, I get it. You know, it's unnatural for the soul. What we have an opportunity to do as devotees is to prepare for that which is inevitable. It is not a fact that every single living entity on this planet experiences old age in the same way. It's not a fact. Old age, just like anything else in this world, is experienced according to our level of consciousness. This is why the boon of Srila Prabhupada, and this is just like unlimited boons, is we're given an opportunity to escape. We can actually, if we take our Krishna consciousness seriously, if we associate with devotees who are serious, if we associate with devotees who are serious, and if we ourselves are sincere, receptive, then you are able to get yourself onto the transcendental platform before the platform of the physical body dies and decays. They said to Prabhupada once, he saw some medical professional, and the medical professional said to him, I've examined your body. There are so many things wrong with your body that you should be screaming in pain. They told Prabhupada that. Prabhupada was not screaming in pain. Why? Because whatever's happening to the body, he's situated somewhere else. So don't let anyone tell you that this Krishna consciousness movement is not practical. It is practical in such a profound way that the materialistic person cannot even begin to imagine. By changing the values in society, it actually recalibrates everything that goes on in the world. Point number one. Point number two, this Sankirtan Yajna burns up the sinful karmic reaction of things which are done by other members of human civilization. Right? When you go out in Sankirtan, when you distribute these books, you literally change not just the karma of the person who takes the book, you're changing the karma of the entire society as a collective. Because that holy name, it purifies the entire atmosphere. So things that other members of our human family have done wrong, sinful activities that they've engaged in, are being balanced up, are being rebalanced, recalibrated by the Sankirtan movement. Practical. And third practicality, when we engage in Krishna consciousness and we elevate our consciousness, you can be guaranteed that there were certain experiences that you were meant to have based upon your material karma that have just been cleared away because of the depth of your practice. Right? And this is why it's such a subtle science, a spiritual science, because this is the way it is. It's just like tax. You know, when you do a job, okay, and you're taxed, a certain amount of money comes into your bank account. Now, many people, they don't look at their tax form. They don't look at the form to see how much was taken away in national insurance, how much was taken away in different taxes. All they see is this much landed in my bank account, right? Now, if you saw how much money was taken away before what's landed in your bank account, you'd probably be upset, okay? But Krishna consciousness is like that in a good way. Think of that tax as negative karmic experiences that you were meant to have. It was just taken away. So what landed into your life, you think, wow, that was some situation, oh, there were some challenges here, some challenges there. You don't know the challenges that were removed from your life. You see? You don't know that you think that's bad, you think what happened to you was bad. Let me show you what your karma was actually meant to be like. Let me show you the other 10 things that were meant to really knock you out in this particular lifetime. So it requires that kind of purification to appreciate the invisible, to appreciate just how many things that should have happened to us which have been removed, and how many more wonderful things have come into our life space which were not due to our karma, but which were due to the hand of God, to the hand of Krishna. So what we can understand is if we take this Krishna consciousness seriously, right? If we take it seriously, sincere and serious, but also joyful. Because if you do it with joy, you can sustain it, right? Find ways to keep it, to experience that flavor from your Krishna consciousness. Shuchukam kartamavyayam, right? To do it in a joyful way, in a dynamic way, in an inspired way. If we can just keep going in that direction, then in this lifetime we can have so many wonderful, not just wonderful, blissful experiences. And that's the point. That's the sign of intelligence. If you're transcendentally happy, you're the most intelligent person on the planet. And that's what Lord Chaitanya implies. Sumedha Saha. He said those who are most intelligent, Sumedha Saha, they'll engage in this Sankirtan Yajna. They won't just engage in the Yajna. They'll give their heart to this movement. Right? They'll give their heart to the mission. No matter whether you're a brahmachari or no matter whether you're a grahasta, whoever you are in this, as long as you're a member of this Krishna consciousness movement, you're married to the mission. You're married to the mission. And that mission will give you all amazing outcomes if we practice it with sincerity, seriousness, and give our hearts to it. Okay? That is the blessing and the boon of Srila Prabhupada. And now it is on us to just unpack the gift. Okay? Please remember that. Our job as devotees is to make sure that you do everything you can to fully reclaim the gift that is being given to us. Okay. So we'll stop there. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Tagore Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Okay. Do we have time for questions? Okay.
Yes.
Any questions? I saw a hand here and then on the other side.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu, for the wonderful class. I had a number in my mind to distribute a certain number today, but I think after your class I want to distribute the whole storage room of books today. It was wonderful. I've had, I'm sure as everyone did, some mystical experiences on Sankirtan, but especially during this marathon. I think the amount of mercy behind it is inconceivable. And the past few nights I've also been getting very vivid dreams about certain habits, people that happened in the past that I completely forgot about, but it came up again in certain ways. Mm-hmm. And it all represented different symbols and symbolisms that appeared in my waking hours as well. So my realization was it's purifying even things that I had no awareness of at all, and especially to your point of maybe even future material karma. But I'm sharing these thoughts also to get your opinion on what you think about that. So it plays a role in both future and past, and it does also that because I felt like my subconscious was just cleansing things that I had no idea that it was going on in the background.
Thank you. So I've been thinking about this a lot. You see, so much of our life goes on behind the scenes. We have so many impressions from not just from earlier in this life. We have so many impressions from previous lives as well. In the verse where it talks about Chandrahas, it talks about how he was a great devotee in Krishna Lila. You know, so we often see this continuity, right? And not just continuity in terms of great associates of Lord Chaitanya, there were also great associates of Lord Krishna. But we also hear sometimes continuity about the demons that Krishna kills and who they were in a previous life and what they did, which caused them to be a demon, things like that. There's always continuity. The Krishna consciousness practice is not like self-help for this reason. Self-help often deals with what's going on in the conscious mind at best. Often doesn't even do that properly. But this Krishna consciousness, it cleans people up at such deep levels. And this is also why we have to have great humility, because some of you will recognize this. Sometimes a person comes to Krishna consciousness, it's like, yeah, wow, whoa, right? And it's like, whoa. And they experience, and they're experiencing so much happiness. And it's fantastic. But there's also stuff that's going to come up later on. Right? And then it's like, what happened to all the bliss? Like, what? I thought I was going to hit Premier about like in about 20 minutes from now. What happened? What happened? And it's all the stuff that needs to be cleared out. Right? So therefore, yes, it's a cleansing process. Yes, samskars from previous lives are also being purified. You know? And that is why also sometimes it's also good to appreciate, again, this theme of appreciation of the invisible. You may practice devotional service and you may sometimes think, oh, nothing's happening. I'm doing this chanting, I'm doing this reading, I don't seem to be changing. But don't think that's not the correct understanding. Even if you don't see what's going on, it does not mean that things aren't being cleared away. See, because we're not so subtle, therefore, some of the things which are removed from our hearts, we don't realize it because we're not so subtle. But what happens is, if we keep practicing, the consciousness becomes more and more refined. And because it becomes more and more refined, you actually you can appreciate more just how much the process is doing for us. The other thing is that sometimes the things that come up even in dreams are due to impressions that we've taken in our waking state. They can also be impressions that we're having while we're asleep. Right? So someone is asleep and there's a fire engine that drives by their house. And because they're not conscious of it, in their dream, fire comes up as a theme. But it's actually because there's something going on in the environment. But there are also definitely those dreams. Get this, there are dreams, sometimes a devotee will have a dream where something is playing out in the dream that they were meant to experience because it's their karma. But that karma is being burnt off in the dream state rather than in the physical state. Yeah. So it's, again, we should see what happens is this: the more that we have gratitude for the process, the more you give your heart to the process. You see? Because gratitude builds a relationship. There's someone who loves you, and every time they see you, they're always asking after you, they're giving you gifts, they're checking into your welfare, they always want to support you. The more you're aware of that, you feel, wow, this person is so wonderful, and you just want to reciprocate. That person is Krishna. You see? When you ever meet a devotee who shows some love to you, you should know that it's Krishna in their heart who told them to come and actually share that love, right? Go and speak to Prabhu, or go and ask Mataji how she's doing, right? When you receive that, it's Krishna's love. He, in the heart of the devotee, is inspiring them to reciprocate with you in that way. So therefore, we then should have gratitude to the devotee because they're the instrument, and we should have gratitude to Krishna because he's the source. You see? And if we keep remembering that, naturally we become more inspired. So, those are some thoughts on your dreams. Is that okay?
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Maybe I have a question on this side.
Thank you so much for your class.
Thank you so much for your class. Yesterday I went to a devotee care fest in the Bhaktivedanta Manor, and it was explained about the importance of keeping balance in our spiritual practice between looking after the body, looking after the mind. Mm-hmm. But I think we need to preach more about how to keep this balance, yes, in order for devotees to stay steady in their spiritual practice. Yes. Could you give us some insight into that, please?
Thank you for a very great question. So, there's a few ways to consider this. And I'll tell you a personal experience I had. Being an overly passionate devotee, there was one point where I thought, wow, this Krishna consciousness is amazing. I'm going to cut back on sleep and do more service. It was a big mistake. It was a big mistake. By doing that, I got to a point where my body was tired all the time. And that was for a long time. And then I recall, I understood much more deeply this particular point, that everything is according to Adhikar. If you're like Srila Prabhupada, you can sleep 2 hours a night. consistently. Maybe take a nap at some point in the day, and you can function in your Krishna consciousness really well consistently, no problem, if you're on Prabhupada's level. But if we're not on the level of Prabhupada, we have to look after the body and mind accordingly. So, the way this works, two things come to mind. First of all, we know the 6 principles of surrender. The first 2, accept what is favorable, reject what is unfavorable. And that's different for different devotees at different stages of advancement. You see? So that's the first point. We also know, Krishna says himself, one cannot be a yogi who does not have a balance between work and recreation. He mentions so many different things. You see? So that's not just some idea, it's Krishna's own teaching. So the way this is all reconciled is the conclusion or the essence is one is meant to practice devotional service in the mode of goodness. Right? That means we know we're not the body, but we want to take care of the body so the body doesn't distract us from looking after Krishna's service. We know we're not the mind, absolutely, but we want to take care of the mind so it doesn't distract us. We don't want to overdo it, but we also don't want to underdo it. Yeah. What comes to mind also is the pastime with Sanatana Goswami, right? He had all these sores in his body, and he wanted to commit suicide. Lord Chaitanya pointed out to him and said, your body doesn't belong to you. Your body is mine, right? So you can't just do whatever you want with it. We can consider the same thing. Our physical bodies, our subtle body, the mind, intelligence, right? These are actually belonging to Krishna. So now, if we understand that, then the question is, are you looking after that subtle body and that physical body in the way that the owner is pleased? That's the way to consider it, you know? And are you doing it in a way that's favorable for you at this stage in your spiritual life? Look, let's be very honest. What we're going to see over the next decade, this is the first time that we're going to see the older generation of devotees, because Prabhupada came, and when he left, they were young. So right now, this is the first time we're going to see the older devotees, the Prabhupada disciples, right? The first time we're going to see Prabhupada's direct disciples who will be in an advanced stage. If we're intelligent, we should make facility for them, right? And then, but we should do more than that. We should also practice our Krishna consciousness in a balanced way so that we can continue to serve with vigor, physical, mental, emotional vigor, as long as we need to. You see? The way this works is very simple. Small things done early are extremely powerful. So if someone just does a little bit of regular, exercise can be dancing in the kirtan consistently, right? Because there's different, some devotees, they get down in different ways in the kirtan. You have some devotees tiptoeing themselves on the sides, right? Little Swami step here and there, just doing my thing in the corner. And then you have other devotees, they're bouncing off the rooftops, hitting the walls, whatever. So we can do Krishna aerobics, but the point is we should be conscious. If you practice Krishna consciousness properly, Krishna gives you a heads up. He can show you, look, you're not looking after your body. I'm going to give you a heads up early so you can do small things now that save you huge amounts of issues later on. I knew about that particular event at the manor. There's so many devotees who are pre-diabetic or diabetic, right? And that's also an issue because, it was Prashad and Prabhu, right? Yeah, but you're eating pizzas every day, yeah. So it is transcendental, but there's also another factor here, Prashad and chocolate cake every day, it doesn't make sense. So it's like that. We should do it. We should do it. Otherwise, what happens is we make our spiritual life more difficult than it needs to be. It's not Krishna. I was speaking to one devotee recently. He's calmed down now, but he was blaming Krishna. Why is Krishna doing this to me? I'm praying to Krishna. He's not helping me. It was a particular situation he was going through, and I told him, I said, actually, you didn't go into this in the way that Scripture says you should have. It's a particular circumstance that he was in. This is really important for us. Until we're on the transcendental platform, we have to practice devotional service in a wise way. This is the real point. You're meant to practice devotion. This is in 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, by the way. Right? Krishna has a conversation with Uddhava, and he tells Uddhava, you first get to the mode of goodness and then to transcendence. That means you practice devotional service from the platform of goodness. You still do your practice, chanting, everything like that, but you practice it from the mode of goodness because actually, and this is a subtlety, When you're on the complete transcendental platform, that means Bhava Bhakti or above. Up until the stage of Bhava Bhakti, you're practicing devotional service from the platform of goodness. Right? It's just to get into the technicalities, right? Pure transcendental Krishna consciousness means Bhava Bhakti or above. Yep. So on that journey, we should understand where we are. And if we do it properly, what will happen is your body won't harass you more than necessary. Your mind will not harass you more than necessary. You see? And that way you'll be able to give your heart much more easily, much more enthusiastically, more directly to the practice, because you won't have to take time out for so many other things which could have been avoided. Thank you. And I think thank you for reminding me, because it definitely has to be spoken of a lot more. Thank you.